Hello everybody and welcome back. Queen Common Sense coming back to you with part 2 of the immunization information video. Um, y'all have to forgive me because I have also been fighting a little battle with the school myself, as I stated in part 1, with fighting against this immunization requirement to not be mandatory for children in schools, and I'm a little shaken up and a little pissed off. So please excuse me if I pause and take a little break in between my points. It's been a rough, bumpy couple weeks for the Queen. So I love you. Bear with me and thank you for your patience. I like to move on with the state laws and the requirements that vary from state to state in regard to these immunizations, and some of them are utterly ridiculous, and it's a contradiction to our constitutional and civil rights when it comes to the link of immunizing our children and preparing them for school. The other thing I would like to share with you is you can't let the school board or your doctor, healthcare provider intimidate you into doing this if you feel your intuition is telling you that this is not right, or something that's just not sitting well with you about giving your babies these shots, no matter how old they are. You have to listen to your intuition. Trust me. I'm living it now, and I just thank God that I found out what it was early on, so that we could attack the issues and the challenges for my son, so that I could learn from it and draw from what I was being taught and what I was teaching myself about the situation, and pass it along to other mothers of children. And as I said before, it doesn't matter. The younger you catch it, the better. When you first administering the first round, the initial round of vaccinations for your babies, your infants, if you have young babies, it's very important to catch it, do your research before their first round of shots. I can't express that enough. Infants, new mothers, new fathers, aunties, uncles, if you have a brand new infant in the family, do your research. Pass my video along to as many people as you can, all of them, because this is very important, very serious information. So, we're moving along to the state laws on compulsory immunizations. That means mandatory, suggested, and shots. I live in Illinois, so there's no real regulation for it, as stated, from the website, of a doctor who was a medical assistant slash doctor, and I pulled this up on the internet, which is outdated, but it gives some good information, and you have to follow, your best judgment and look things up and do extensive reading and research, which is what a lot of our people don't do. You put it in a book or in text form, we're not going to read it. You got to do some reading. So in Illinois, just for an example, which is what I was arguing with my son's school about, in Illinois, they want to lead us to believe that it is a requirement to get these measles, mumps, rubella, chicken pox, diphtheria, tetanus shots, because we're in danger of these diseases. And true enough, it's a possibility. that, if you can get cut by a contaminated sharp object, you can contract tetanus because of the germs, so forth and so on. We understand that basic knowledge. However, it's not required, and we're not in danger. There's not a pandemic of these viruses and illnesses and diseases floating around. Okay? The last reported case of measles was in 1979 in America. Last reported case of diphtheria or tetanus was before that in the early 60s. And the last case of reported diphtheria was in 1985. So, just so you know, the fear-mongering of the government and of these drug companies and healthcare providers of westernized medicine is outrageous, and it enrages me. So, back to my example of the Illinois requirements and state law concerning compulsory or mandatory immunizations. That each state has a responsible agency, which means that agency of that state is responsible for enforcing these requirements or requesting these requirements to be enforced within the school systems of that state. And in some states, there's a misdemeanor for not being immunized, and in others, there's no penalty at all, like Illinois, for example. And again, I say, there's no requirement under the Constitution or the law stating that you have to do it. It's just strongly suggested. You see the conflict there? Contradictory to what they're telling you. Also, as far as these school boards, they are not supposed to exclude your children from class, especially if your children attend a public school, which means free. It is against our constitutional and civil rights to be deprived of an education in public schools for any reason in the United States of America, regardless if you have immunizations or not. There also are exceptions in some states where you can get medical written documentation from your healthcare provider or alternate healthcare provider outside of westernized medicine, holistic healthcare provider, so on, that you can be exempt, or your child can be exempt from having to receive these immunizations, which is really poison and disease that is being injected into us and our children, and they're leading us to believe that this information and these immunizations are mandatory. They are not. I repeat, mandatory for you to do. It's a voluntary act to be immunized if you so choose, as well as your children, up until the age of 18 in some states. So, just so you know, and the reason why these drug companies are putting mercury and thimerosal and all these extra additives into these strains of these deactivated viruses that they call immunizations is because it's cheap. It's a cheap way to preserve it, to prevent cross-contamination between each strain that they inject into the vial to be transported throughout the country. So it's to keep it from spoiling, in other words. So that's one way to save money, cut corners, and mass produce these immunizations and make it sound like it's a requirement and a dead wrong sin not to let them inject these dead viruses of mumps, measles, rubella, flu chicken pox, H1N1, and the list goes on. To mass produce these shots and immunizations and sell them for dirt cheap, $10, $25, $24, $48, $50, whatever. So the drug companies can have a campaign of worldwide or nationwide vaccination campaign to make money cutting prices in half so you don't have to have a healthcare provider to receive them, and that brings back more of a return for the drug companies and the senators who are in favor of immunizing and immunization. This goes all the way up the chain from local government to state government to federal government on up to the big house. So y'all keep your eyes and ears open and do your reading and your research and ask questions. Yes, it's worth taking that day off of work to take your baby in. They might miss a day of school because you got to get them an immunization. You don't want them to get sick and so on and so forth. If you notice, we'll take the flu shot for example. A lot of people who have a strong immune system get the flu shot, nothing happens. A couple months later, they get sick. They get a common cold, what we call the flu. Never got sick before the shot, did you? What's in there? That's a deactivated strand of flu. Some of them have 3 or 4 strands of the virus that you're being immunized against. You don't need to do that because when your body catches a cold or catches a virus and you get sick, that's auto defense. You've already caught that virus, so therefore you need to just let it run its course. Your body will then take over and address that foreign body, that foreign germ that's in there, kill it, and you can never catch the same cold twice. That's how your body works. So when you weaken your defense system with attacking it with deactivated strands of that virus that you're trying to protect yourself from, guess what? You get sicker and you feel worse when you do catch any strain of it. You can't catch the strain that they injected into you, but you're more susceptible to catch a different strain of a different virus that might make you sicker as opposed to if you did not receive the immunization at all. Now, some immunizations are required for people who are older, in advanced age, senior citizens, and above. Not for young, brand new babies, infants, toddlers who have not been exposed to the public, like public school, preschool, daycare. So I'm winding down to the end of part 2, and we're going to go deeper into the legislation and some of the studies that I found regarding these drug companies and the collaboration that is real foul, that protects these drug companies for any liability of any damage, emotionally or physically or neurologically, to their patients who are being immunized. So please stay tuned for part 3. Queen Common Sense holding down to you. Thank you for watching. Please comment, rate, subscribe, inbox me some questions. Put them on the comment page if you have any. And then I'll also, in part 3, share with you some of the websites that I drew this information from. Thank you. Part 3 coming at you.